Well, this week, the government finally represented the people when it just completely shut down. Honestly, didn't it feel like the government kind of needed a break? Just so we could all catch our breath? Can you believe we're only 9 months into this presidency? That means we still have 3 months and 7 years remaining. I already tried fighting. I'm tired. I went to so many protests this summer. But honestly, it was worth it because we finally got them to change the Cracker Barrel logo back to the original, featuring my actual grandpa.
Colin Jost didn't just roast Donald Trump. He completely tore him apart with calm, surgical precision. His humor wasn't loud or angry. It was controlled and deliberate. Jost treated Trump's chaos like a case study in absurdity, exposing every flaw with a steady hand and a sharp grin. His jokes didn't just sting, they revealed. By the end, it wasn't a roast so much as a masterclass in truth disguised as comedy, leaving behind not just laughter, but a clear reminder of how ridiculous power can look when stripped of its illusion.
From now on, our fighting men, and I guess women, are going to adhere to the highest male standard, which has been set by our president, Donald J. Trump. 6'6", $175, A-cups, perky, with a dump truck in the back you wouldn't even believe.
If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. Colin Jost joked that Trump's presidency feels like an SNL sketch that somehow won the election. Every day plays out like a new episode no one remembers signing up for. He mocked Trump's schedule as the only one in Washington filled entirely with self-praise and confusion. Jost painted him as a man whose morning routine includes watching himself on TV, tweeting before dawn, and calling it foreign policy. The country, he said, wakes up each day like a tired roommate, cleaning up after another late-night ego binge.
I know it's scary for a lot of people right now, but I'm trying to stay positive, and I'm trying to remember the words of a great man.
Nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen.
The last time the U.S. government shut down was during President Trump's first administration in 2018, which was so long ago, we look like this.
Colin's humor hits harder because it's built on truth. He pointed out that Trump turned governing into performance art, where applause mattered more than action. The president treated press briefings like open mic nights, less about sharing facts, more about keeping the spotlight on himself. Jost joked that under Trump, facts became an endangered species, rarely seen and often treated like myths. He summed up the administration's approach perfectly: confidence over competence. And, he added, the results looked exactly as messy as that sounds.
Insiders are saying that President Trump is trying to create tension between his potential successors, Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance, mostly by pointing at them and saying, "Kiss."
President Trump announced plans for a 100% tariff on movies made outside the U.S., which is no problem for me because all the movies I watched were filmed in a Florida condo on a leather couch.
Then Jost went after Trump's favorite illusion, his so-called business genius. After all, no one markets bankruptcy as brilliance quite like Donald Trump. Colin compared his financial record to a game of Jenga, where every missing block was labeled investor confidence. The self-proclaimed deal-maker, he joked, somehow turned allies into enemies and diplomacy into bad reality TV. Jost even quipped that Trump could bankrupt Monopoly if given the chance, because even in a board game, the dice would probably file a restraining order.
Israel and Hamas have tentatively agreed to President Trump's plan to end the war in Gaza, and you could tell Trump wrote the plan himself.
A Trump advisor said ICE agents will attend the Super Bowl after Bad Bunny was announced as the halftime performer. You know, to catch all those farm workers who can afford Super Bowl tickets.
Trump's obsession with image was Jost's next target. He mocked the idea of a president who spends more time fixing the lighting than fixing policy. Every photo op is treated like a red carpet event. Every step rehearsed as if he's auditioning for most photographed leader in history. Jost described Trump's public appearances as emotional costume changes. Different moods, same script. Every smile looks practiced, every gesture overdone, like a performer stuck in a show that just refuses to get canceled.
Traveled to the Middle East this week, and if I were him, I would have just stayed there because it looked awesome. Trump arrived in Saudi Arabia where he was greeted with a lavender carpet which matched the color of his tie and also the length. They also rolled out a mobile McDonald's truck for President Trump's visit, featuring Saudi Arabia's most popular new burger, the McJournalist.
Then came the foreign policy disaster. Jost described Trump's diplomatic style as a mix of blind confidence and total improvisation. The kind you'd expect from someone who thinks geography is just an opinion. Every summit, he joked, feels like a talent show, where Trump assumes he's the only performer. His negotiations play out like awkward first dates. Too much bragging, not enough listening, and promises everyone regrets afterward. Jost said Trump could make world peace sound like a real estate ad for a house with bad plumbing. The roast hit even harder when he tackled Trump's relationship with the truth. Every claim is made up, every correction treated like betrayal. Jost joked that the White House could power a city with the energy it spends denying reality. If lying were an Olympic sport, he said, America's medal count under Trump would be unbeatable.
Well, America elected Donald Trump to run the country like a business, but it turns out he's running it like one of his businesses. I love that you can intentionally ruin the economy and still get to stay president. It's like if you drunk drove your car through the window of the DMV and they were like, license renewed. It's insane. This was the worst week for the stock market since the summer of 2020. But you have to remember, back then, the president was also Trump.
Then came the economy, Trump's favorite trophy, polished daily and displayed proudly, even as it cracks. Jost joked that Trump treats economic success like something he discovered, not something built. When job numbers rise, he takes the credit. When inflation hits, it's suddenly everyone else's fault. Colin compared Trump's financial approach to juggling grenades. Impressive for a second, disastrous when it fails. He mocked Trump's habit of confusing the stock market with the real economy, reminding everyone that Wall Street doesn't pay rent in the real world. Then, Jost turned to Trump's handling of crises, each treated more like a PR stunt than a national emergency. When the world wanted leadership, Trump wanted ratings. Jost painted him as a magician during a meltdown. High energy, no message, and the whole thing feeling less like politics and more like a revival for true believers.
The Democratic National Committee protested President Trump's plans to accept a $400 million luxury jet from Qatar by flying a banner over Mar-a-Lago reading Qatar-a-Lago. It's the kind of hilarious stunt that makes you realize why the Democrats will never win again. Ethical experts are also warning that Trump may owe political favors to countries who give him lavish gifts. But based on the way he left the Middle East, I think I know how Trump is going to pay them back.
Then came the cabinet chaos. Colin roasted the constant turnover of advisors who rotated through Trump's White House like extras in an over-budget movie. He described it as an HR nightmare where loyalty meant silence and survival depended on guessing the boss's mood. Every firing felt personal, and every resignation looked like a public breakup. Jost joked that no one lasted long because it's impossible to serve both the Constitution and Trump's ego. He then tore into Trump's communication skills, or lack of them. Listening to him, Jost said, is like trying to decode a fortune cookie written by a broken robot. Sentences start somewhere, wander off, and never find their way back. Colin also shattered the myth of Trump's toughness. The self-proclaimed strongman folds at the slightest joke. Jost laughed that a single late-night punchline can set off a presidential meltdown. The man who claims to be unshakable reacts to comedians like a volcano to static electricity. His version of strength, Jost said, is pretending not to be weak, even while sinking fast. True toughness takes reflection, and that's something Trump dodges as eagerly as his taxes.
President Trump even imposed tariffs on remote islands that are only inhabited by penguins. Well, then maybe penguins shouldn't keep pushing their gay agenda. This week, President Trump met with Kid Rock for what appears to be Drag Queen Story Hour. Kid Rock watched Trump sign an executive order on concert ticket fees and then returned to his regular job as a 4th of July lawn skeleton.
Then came Trump's never-ending legal drama, an expanding saga of investigations, lawsuits, and denials. Colin called it America's longest-running courtroom special, where every episode follows the same script: deny, deflect, distract, repeat. It's performance art, Except taxpayers are footing the bill. Joss joked that Trump treats indictments like brand promotions. Just another way to play the victim. Somehow, he's the only man who can turn criminal charges into campaign posters. Colin also took aim at Trump's war on science, mocking his environmental policies as a personal feud with reality. Climate change under Trump wasn't a threat, it was just bad PR. He gutted regulations in the name of progress, while nature quietly kept score. Jost joked that Trump seemed to think environmentalism was a plot designed to annoy billionaires. And the man who promised unity? He turned disagreement into division. Colin mocked how Trump measures patriotism, not by service to the country, but by how loudly someone claps for him. As Jost put it perfectly, he's the only president who treats democracy like it's his personal fan club.
Guys, it happened. Last night, President Trump posted an AI-generated image of himself as the Pope, apparently ordering a one-way ticket to hell. Who posts a photo of themselves dressed like a guy who died a week ago? Trump was at the Pope's funeral. That means he walked past an open casket and was like, oh, we should do a who wore it best.
Then came Trump's obsession with his legacy. Colin joked that he's the first president more focused on branding history than actually making it. Every event becomes a photo op, every mistake a media conspiracy, and every speech a sales pitch. Trump talks about greatness like it's a trademark, not a virtue. Jost quipped that this obsession guarantees he'll have a legacy, just not the one he wants. Historians, he said, won't file his presidency under achievements, but under case study. Every handshake looks like a hostage photo, and every meeting ends with no one sure who won. Under Trump, Jost added, the State Department felt more like an improv troupe than a diplomatic force. Then came the pandemic, which Jost tackled with sharp irony. Science was sidelined, experts silenced, and optimism sold like a cheap slogan. Colin said Trump treated a global health crisis like a TV ratings dip, offering confidence instead of plans. The man who swore everything was under control seemed constantly shocked that reality wouldn't obey him. Jost wrapped it up perfectly. Future textbooks will feature Trump's pandemic strategy under What Not to Do When You're in Charge.
This week, Donald Trump continued to announce everyone he's going to fire in 6 months. Trump nominated Kristi Noem to lead the Department of Homeland Security, Lee Zeldin to head the EPA, and Elise Stefanik as ambassador to the UN. And then someone yelled, now do a silly one. On Wednesday, Trump nominated Matt Gaetz for Attorney General, and Gaetz said the same thing he does when he sees a teenage girl. I'll do it.
Jost mocked Trump's obsession with loyalty tests, where every ally or staffer had to prove devotion or risk public exile. Colin compared working for Trump to competing on a survival show, where the only rule is never outshine the host. The White House, he said, turned into a soap opera filled with betrayals and dramatic exits. Every resignation could have been titled, I Tried to Explain Logic. His humor then shifted to Trump's fake populism. The billionaire who claims to understand the working class has probably never met one without an entourage. Jost painted him as a man who thinks empathy can be bought, and that understanding begins at the golf course. His connection to regular Americans, Colin joked, feels as real as his tan line. Calling Trump a man of the people, Jost said, is like calling a yacht a lifeboat. Then came Trump's moral compass, or lack of one. Jost described it as spinning wildly in a storm of self-interest, where right and wrong depend on what benefits him most. His self-praise provided endless material. Trump doesn't just brag. He narrates his own legend like a motivational speaker who forgot the point. Every success is inflated, every failure blamed on someone else. Colin summed it up best. Trump is a walking autobiography that edits itself in real time.
Really, like if the week Queen Elizabeth died, I posted this. I don't know, I just feel like as a Catholic, Trump's photo just feels slightly disrespectful. Also, if Trump really wants to be Pope, he should probably stay away from J.D. Vance.
President Trump responded to a report showing the U.S. economy was declining by posting, be patient. And if his brain gets any worse, he's gonna be patient.
Trump's confidence, Colin joked, is bulletproof only because it's completely allergic to evidence. He's never lost an argument, mostly because he never stops talking long enough to hear the other side. Then came the cultural fallout. Trump didn't just divide politics, he split logic itself. Jost compared America under Trump to a group project where one person insists they did all the work and everyone else is wrong. Facts became tribal, truth negotiable, and outrage the new currency. Colin pointed out that the real danger wasn't that Trump changed America, it's that he convinced millions that chaos was normal. He came to drain the swamp, Jost said, but ended up expanding the membership. Jost didn't just roast Trump with jokes. He exposed the entire performance for what it really is. An ego on repeat, demanding applause while setting fires where leadership should be. And as Trump, still clinging to the spotlight, continues his show of self-celebration, Jost's calm laughter hits harder than any headline. Because true satire doesn't scream. It simply holds up a mirror and lets the reflection do the work.